Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, aquí tienen el horario para hoy, miércoles el 19 de febrero. Learning target for today, describe your ideal city and community. Your warm-up is to create 5 suggestions for living a healthy life. Descansar, hacer ejercicio, comer muchas frutas y verduras, no comer muchos dulces, no beber gaseosas o soda, pues dormir lo suficiente, mantener buenas amistades. Bueno, 5 sugerencias para vivir una vida saludable, living a healthy life. What are those suggestions you have? We're going to not have time probably to review the homework that is due for today, the use of the subjunctive and adjective clauses. There is a video, though, that you can watch to review your answers if you have any questions, but given the PD schedule, we will not have time to cover that in class. But that is due by midnight tonight for you A days, B days, all y'all, due by midnight. New notes on textbook page 70. We're going to go over today on the commands using the subjunctive, the nosotros form of the subjunctive when making commands. We'll do a little guided practice to check how you're doing with that. Forgive me, I need to also add that we are going to do pair practice, actividades 1 y 2 en la página 71. And then finally, some listening comprehension, an activity that I hope to do with you in class. Take a look at the song lyrics of the song Vivir mi vida and make some changes to the lyrics into the nosotros command form. So without further ado, and that's the only thing that's due by next class. And again, hopefully we'll get it done during class so there's not too much to do for homework. Always on your team and trying to ensure that not too much has to be done at home. At the very least, we start in class. So without further ado, let's take a look at page 70, nosotros commands. Go over these notes with you. You've already learned 2 commands and formal usted commands. These are the ones that you're using to make your suggestions. Essentially using the subjunctive in the to form and in the la usted form, usually in the la usted form, depending on who you're talking to, I guess, when you're instructing or low-key commanding someone to do something. We've gone over that already earlier in the academic year and certainly in level 2. Here, we're going to learn how to make nosotros commands, which are orders of suggestions for which you are included. This would be the equivalent of let's. Let's do whatever, right? It's a collective command which you are included in. For both the affirmative and negative nosotros commands, we generally use the first person plural of the present subjunctive. First person plural, the nosotros form, of the present subjunctive. This is the verb cruzar. Crucemos la calle. Let's cross the street. Again, let's, and then whatever the main verb is. This is how it would translate in English. No crucemos la calle. Let's not cross the street. So just remember how to formulate the subjunctive to begin with. This is textbook page 14. To form the present subjunctive, start with the present indicative yo form. Drop the o ending. And then add these present subjunctive endings. Your AR endings, ending in E, and your ER and IR endings, ending in A. Kind of flip-flopped as we talked about earlier in the academic year, comparing present subjunctive with the o, as, a, almosan present indicative endings you guys have learned in level 1 and level 2. So here's a reminder of how to formulate regular verbs in the subjunctive and then irregular verbs. That's why this methodology is so helpful. Start with the yo form, like the verb tener, tengo. Remove the o ending. you have your stem for the subjunctive, and then add your endings, regular endings for ER and IR verbs. Remember cargars are verbs, how you have that spelling change that's applicable in all forms, not just the O form like how it is in the preterite. And these 5 irregular verbs that always seem to surface themselves in every tense, let alone the subjunctive. So that's page 14, just a reminder for how we formulate or how we come up with the subjunctive to begin with. The affirmative let's command may be expressed with vamos a, the ir a infinitive, but remember, ir a infinitive could also be the simple future to say what you're going to do. So, personally, I feel like the present subjunctive is better so as to avoid ambiguity, but they're just reminding you here that, to say let's do something, you can use the construction ir, obviously in the nosotros form, vamos, a, and then the main verb, like this example here, is just left in the infinitive. Vamos a infinitive. To express let's go, the present indicative form could also be used not in the subjunctive. Vamos a la pescadería. Let's go to the fish market. No vayamos a la pescadería. So in a negative command, we wouldn't use present indicative of the verb ir. We would use present subjunctive of the verb ir only in negative commands beginning with no. Object pronouns. Indirect object pronouns such as me, te, le, nos, and les. Direct object pronouns such as lo, la, los, and las. Those are called indirect and direct object pronouns, and even reflexive pronouns as well, as we'll see, are always attached to the affirmative nosotros commands. Typically, we put them before the verb, but in the command form, we put them after, not even after, but attached to the very end. Written accent marks are used, or added rather, to maintain the original stress. Firmemos el cheque. Let's sign the check. Firmémoslo. Let's sign it. Lo is a masculine singular direct object pronoun, taking the place of el cheque. Escribamos a Ana y Raúl. Let's write Ana and Raúl. Escribámosles. Let's write them. They being Ana y Raúl. This is a direct object pronoun. Direct object is an item that's receiving the action of a verb. Indirect object pronouns are usually in reference to people, or always in reference to people actually, and they indicate the recipient of the action, to whom or for whom an action is intended. Lastly, object pronouns are placed in front of negative nosotros commands. So not attached, but rather placed in front of when a negative command is given. No les paguemos el préstamo. Let's not pay them the loan. No se lo digamos a ellos. Let's not tell them, or him or her, it, whatever it is. And actually, se is them because they've emphasized a ellos, to them. This is really tricky. The use of indirect object pronouns, direct object pronouns, reflexive pronouns. We can go over this in greater detail when we're together. And if you're having a hard time capturing this last part, it's understandable. Takes a real thorough understanding of the grammar of the language. So let's do the inténtalo. We'll do the guided practice, activities 1 and 2, and then I'll share with you your homework, which is to listen to the song Vivir mi vida and to change all of the examples of the simple future, which can be used as indicated in the notes, but rather than using the simple future ir a infinitive, to use the subjunctive of whatever the main verb is. So, use the subjunctive of the main verb cruzar To make a nosotros command in the subjunctive, crucemos. You're going to do the same thing for all the examples that you see of the ir a infinitive construction. Yeah? That is easy homework compared to what we're going to do here together. So the inténtalo indica los mandatos afirmativos y negativos de la primera persona del plural nosotros, nosotras de estos verbos. So you're going to do affirmative and negative. Estudiamos, or excuse me, estudiar would be estudiamos, no estudiamos. And whether it's affirmative or negative, both affirmative and negative nosotros commands are generally formed by using the first person plural of the present subjunctive. So there's no change in how we would conjugate the verb affirmatively or negatively. Tenemos, no tenemos. Leamos, no leamos. Decidamos, no decidamos. Digamos, no digamos. That's D-I-G-A-M-O-S, following the model that's on page 14, beginning with the yo form of the verb, which in this case would be digo, I say, digo, removing the o ending in digo, and getting your conjugations in the subjunctive. Diga, digas, diga, digamos, digan. That's the verb decir, which is the verb to say. Cerremos, no cerremos. Levantémonos. Levantémonos. No nos levantemos. Tricky because it's a reflexive pronoun. And number 8, you've probably heard before. Vámonos. No nos vayamos. 8's a little tricky because the verb ir in the negative, in the present indicative, ir is vamos for affirmative command. Negative command, the verb ir is in the present subjunctive. So 8's a little tricky. No nos vayamos. Irse is the verb to leave, by the way. Ir is to go, as you know. Irse, when reflexive, is the verb to leave. Vámonos, you've heard, let's go. And no nos vayamos. All right, activity 1 and 2 and homework. Completa esta conversación con mandatos de nosotros. Just like what we did on the previous page, making nosotros commands. A ver, una conversación entre María y Sergio. Let's take a look. Sergio, ¿quieres hacer diligencias ahora o por la tarde? You want to run errands now or in the afternoon? No las dejemos. D-E-J-E-M-O-S. No las dejemos para más tarde. Las is not going to be attached to this command because this is a negative command. Remember, negative commands that have object pronouns are going to go, object pronouns within a negative command are going to go before the verb itself, as you can see here in those two examples. So again, number 1, no las, and then the verb dejar in the nosotros command form, dejemos para más tarde. Let's not leave it, or leave them rather, for later. Hagámoslas. Hagámoslas ahora. Let's do them now. ¿Qué tenemos que hacer? What do we got to do? Necesito comprar sellos. Need to buy stamps. Yo también. Vamos al correo. Let's go to the post office. Again, ir, when in the present indicative, to say let's go, we use present indicative of ir, not the subjunctive. So, number 3, vamos al correo. Pues antes de ir al correo, necesito sacar dinero de mi cuenta corriente. Before going to the post office, I gotta take out some money from the ATM. Bueno, busquemos. Remember, buscar, a cargar is our verb, like tocar. We're going to use that stem change for all conjugations, including nosotros. Oops. So number 4, busquemos un cajero automático. Let's look for an ATM. ¿Tienes hambre? Are you hungry? Sí. Crucemos la calle, just like the example. Crucemos la calle. Cruzar is a cargar are verb. So the Z changes to a C. And don't worry, y'all. If you're like, oh man, how do I keep track of all of these? With practice, you'll recognize car, gar, you'll know to look for them. So if you're missing that part, the irregularities, not the end of the world. It's all good. Crucemos la calle y entremos en ese café. Buena idea. ¿Nos sentamos aquí? No. Negative command. No nos sentemos aquí. Sentémonos. Sentémonos. Combined all together. Combined all together when an affirmative command is given. Sentémonos enfrente de la ventana. ¿Qué pedimos? What should we order? Pidamos, P-I-D-A-M-O-S. Pidamos café y pan dulce. All right, part 2, and then we'll take a look at your homework. Respond to each command, providing the nosotros command form, either affirmative or negative, depending upon the response. And then substitute, this one's real tricky, substitute the direct object with a direct object pronoun or the indirect object with an indirect object pronoun. So for example, vamos a vender el carro. Are we gonna let's go sell the car? Sí. Vendámoslo. Yes, let's sell it. It being the car. Lo is a masculine singular direct object pronoun replacing the masculine singular direct object. Same thing here. Un cajero, masculine singular. Lo, masculine singular direct object pronoun. But notice that the pronouns are going to not be attached. They're going to go before your main verb whenever a negative command is given. Number 1, vamos a levantarnos a las 6. Sí. Levantemos. Excuse me. This is hard. Levantémonos. Levantémonos a las 6. Let's get up at 6. ¿Vamos a enviar los paquetes? No. No los enviemos. No. No los enviemos. ¿Vamos a depositar el cheque? Sí. Depositémoslo. Depositémoslo. ¿Vamos al supermercado? No. No lo vayamos. No. No lo taking the place of vayamos. Or excuse me, lo taking the place of supermercado, and then vayamos. Vamos a mandar esta postal a nuestros amigos. This one's tricky because you have a direct object and an indirect object. Direct object is the thing that's being sent. The indirect object, our friends, is the recipient of what is being sent. Direct object, thing. Indirect object, person. So, no se la mandemos. No se la mandemos. I understand the indirect object pronoun that would replace this would be les, right? To them, our friends. Les would change to se when you have another direct object pronoun present. And that's for pronunciation reasons. To say no, les, lo, digamos, it's a lot of L sounds. So to omit the duplicate L sounds, they change the indirect object pronoun le or les to se. Anytime a direct object pronoun and an indirect object pronoun are both used in a sentence. Tricky. Number 6. ¿Vamos a limpiar la habitación? Sí, limpiémosla. ¿Vamos a mirar la televisión? No, no la miremos. ¿Vamos a bailar? Sí, bailemos. ¿Vamos a pintar la sala? No, no la pintemos. ¿Vamos a comprar estampillas? Sí, comprémoslas. Comprémoslas. And then finally, your homework. Thank you for your patience. Taking these song lyrics is going to be super easy. It's exactly what we just did for activity 12, or 2 rather, changing the ir a infinitive constructions to the nosotros command form. And all of these are going to be affirmative, because Mark Anthony is like, hey, this is what we got to do to live our life, to live my life. This is what brings me joy. This is what I need to do, or should do, what we all should do to live a full life. So change voy a reír to the nosotros command form. Reír. Reamos would be the subjunctive, right? Reamos. Let's smile. Or excuse me, let's laugh. Reír is the verb to laugh. Sonreír is the verb to smile. Reamos. Bailemos. Reamos. Gocemos. And then I think you might have a lot of repeats there. You have voy a vivir, vivamos. Yeah, some repeats. Well, I thought it was a cool activity. Anyway, easy to do. I'll give you guys a printout of the song lyrics. And then again, you guys just highlight, and then you can put off to the side here what those verbs would look like in the subjunctive. Easy 10 points for tonight's homework.